Oh, hi, I'm Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. I told you so. I think anybody watching this show will know exactly what I'm talking about, Stacey.
Right. Of course, Keiser Report is the first global international television news episode, or what do you call us?
Show.
A show that told you back in 2011 to buy Bitcoin when it was $1. We've been telling you this whole time. And the reason why this is important is not only is it hitting all-time highs and we're well over $20,000, during this whole time, we've had the New York Times, we've had MSNBC tell thousands, millions of Americans to not watch us, that we are giving them misinformation and disinformation. Whereas over at the New York Times, Paul Krugman said Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme and that it's inferior to the dollar because the dollar, he said, his words, is backed by men with guns. Rachel Maddow also, she never told you about Bitcoin. She never told you about how to liberate yourself. And she instead was telling you that we are a benevolent empire and back us. We're going to invade Yemen and save the women and children there. We're going to invade Syria and save the women and children there. We're going to invade Libya, everywhere. Like it's all about violence and relentless pessimism that they sell you this whole time.
You think about this for a second. So we started talking about Bitcoin at $1. Back in 2011, we've been pushing it, telling people about it at $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000. It's still a buy at these new all-time high prices. And the New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, we're all pushing the Russophobic conspiracy theories and dissuading folks from watching our show. As a result, many people around the world, Mexico, Latin America, Asia, everywhere, got in the 100 countries that RT broadcast to, and they've made millions. We've made over 100,000 millionaires in Bitcoin, but not so much in the U.S. because the U.S. is blinkered by its love of Keynesian economics, its love of the Fed, its love of debt. And it's weird because if you look at my background, I've got almost 40 years on involved with Wall Street, started on Wall Street, been involved in markets, finance, and financial engineering for 40 years. I invented the Hollywood Stock Exchange. I invented the Carmen Bank system for staging speculative attacks, which have now become popular. In other words, I'm probably the single greatest expert in the field of digital currencies and Bitcoin in the world. And that's provable and that's obvious. And yet the New York Times, the paper of record, chose to keep their population poor. And that's the message from the New York Times. And this is what really galls me as an American. They want you to be as poor as possible and to be in the gutter begging for food from these politicians who are in bed with the kleptocrats. And I'm sorry, but as an American, that makes me blow chunks into the face of the New York Times because they are supporting the financial terrorists, exactly as I've been saying for 11 years on this show and for 40 years on my entire career. But thank God people listened and saw the beauty of Bitcoin, and now they're on the vector out.
Well, and it's important, okay, yes, you are an expert, but we believe in heterodox economic thinking, not the orthodox. The orthodox economic thinking is from the white ivory towers of the New York Times, of the Paul Krugmans, of the Nobel economists, of the Rhodes scholars like Rachel Maddow. So they only have those who confirm all their biases and stuff like that. So we have been open to people who aren't experts, who aren't Nobel economists, who aren't Rhodes scholars, who are brave and heterodox thinkers and just doers and entrepreneurs and building companies and building systems. Like you weren't like some Harvard economist PhD who then went and created the Hollywood Stock Exchange. You were an entrepreneur. So, there is a certain difference between an expert who is an expert like a Rhodes Scholar or a Nobel economist and an expert who's like Elon Musk or Max Keiser or just builds stuff and does it and achieves stuff. So there is a huge difference between expert in their orthodox thinking and expert in heterodox thinking.
Well, I'm trying to make it easy for them. I mean, they can call me an expert if they wish, and I'd be fully qualified to be termed in such a way. But yes, whether it's Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Max Keiser, we're all entrepreneurs that created industries, created whole paradigm shifts. And the New York Times and Paul Krugman, remember when the internet was introduced in the 90s, he thought it was a passing fad like the fax machine or something. He is an idiot.
Yeah. And by the way, we're also capitalists. You could tell how they aren't, because Paul Krugman and Rachel Maddow do not want to compete with us. They don't want to compete with this program. They want you to not, they want to forbid you and ban you from seeing this, whereas we invite you. Go read everything Paul Krugman has said. Definitely go read it all from the last 11 years. Go read and watch everything Rachel Maddow has said over the last 10 years. We totally 100% encourage you and really implore you to go do that and then compare it to us. So I invite the competition. I think you'll see, if you juxtapose us, if you watch us back to back together, if you decide that you want to stay with them, well, have fun staying poor. That's the Bitcoin way. That's the Bitcoin terminology.